Lotus, I'm so excited to speak with you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here and I can't wait to dive in and chat.
Okay, great. Well, before we get going, I'm just going to put my microphone a little bit closer because I realized I've got it on, but I had it very far away from me. And, as I am a voice coach, the voice is very important. So I need the microphone. Anyway, well, let's go back to so you're one of my students that was in my program, and it was really great to work with you and see your progress. But for those that are tuning in, why don't we just start with who you are, what you do, and what inspired you to work with me and take my program?
Yeah, so I am a homeschool mom and I have an art history membership for homeschool kids. So being that I'm in a primarily visual field and everything is, based on art and seeing things, and I like to write a lot. I've always liked to write. When I started my business, it was basically a lot of written words, blog posts, things that were not video based. And so I realized at a certain point that I was missing a huge opportunity to be on video more, to do Instagram reels, and in working with you, you inspired me to start a new podcast and a YouTube channel. So these things just opened up all of these new ways for me to communicate with people. And you kind of always think the way that you do things is the way that everybody does things. At least I don't know. I just kind of tend to think that like, oh, no one's going to want to watch that many videos or listen to podcasts because they're busy doing other things, because I like to read and that's kind of the way that I consume information. But it was really surprising to me when I actually surveyed my audience that like the vast majority of them do love video and podcasts way more than reading. So that was something that I was like, okay, well, I need to meet people where they're at because I want to have this conversation. And through writing, I'm missing a lot of people that I could be communicating with. So yeah,
Oh,
but
that's
it,
so interesting. So that's why you started with the blog because you're an avid reader and that's what you enjoy doing. So that made sense to you.
yes, yeah, and I love to
Oh,
write. I've always loved to write. I almost went into journalism before I decided to be a graphic designer. That's what my background is. My education is in graphic design. So I kind of like came sideways into the world of art history and homeschooling. But yeah, I've always loved to write. And so writing came really naturally to me. And being on video, I'm such an introvert. So being on video, being on, having people being on any kind of stage. I even wanted our wedding to be small. I'm like, I don't want a lot of people looking at me. I just want it to be like a cozy, intimate evening. So that's just my preference. But at a certain point, I'm just like, there's all these people out there who I want to have this conversation with. And this is how I need to do things to be able to reach them. So in order to feel more confident, I needed some help. And that's where you came in. And so it really did help a lot to just get a little bit of background and information and advice and direction about how to best use my voice to share ideas.
yeah. It's interesting that you brought up that you're an introvert because I love shouting to the rooftops that I'm an introvert too. I call myself an extroverted introvert because I do put myself out there, I make myself visible. But I always say, as introverts, we've got to work in our comfort zone and not force ourselves to do things that don't feel comfortable to us. So it's
Yeah.
that balance between what your audience needs and your needs as well. And when you can find that sweet spot, I think it really gives the capability to reach a much bigger audience and also to realize that it's okay to be a little bit uncomfortable. It's when we live in that uncomfortableness that we start to really shift and grow.
Yeah.
And that the more you do it, really the easier it becomes for the introvert, where at first it's really quite kind of daunting and a little bit scary. And then you do
Yeah.
it and you go, you know what? It's okay. It's more, and I'll be curious to know what you think, the lead up to doing it versus the actual doing it. That's kind of the more daunting part.
Yeah, exactly. Thinking about it before. And that's the other thing is that in working, I used to do like Facebook lives and these other things that were live, and they would really stress me out. And I don't think that I did a good job at them because I was just so in my head and not in a space where I could really have this kind of conversation that I wanted to. But with Instagram Reels and with the podcast and with YouTube, those are all pre-recorded. So I can use the tools and the techniques that you shared with me and taught me and kind of focus my energy on speaking with someone, even though they're not really there, but I imagine that they are, and then have this conversation where when it's live and, if you mess up one little time and you're just like, it kind of starts to snowball but being prepared, like you said, is a big thing too. I like to have an outline and then I feel like ready to jump in and say what I want to say and not just like push go live and just start rambling and hope that it sounds good in the end. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so finding those platforms that work for you as an introvert, like that you can, do it again if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it, or you can edit a little piece out or whatever, so that you have a product that you're excited to share with people.
Yeah, for sure. That brings up a good point that I bet that extroverts probably thrive on things like Instagram lives versus the introvert, where we would much rather record things and have a little bit more control over, how it's laid out. We can always do another take.
Yes.
So I never actually really thought about that, but there's probably something to that, which is, yeah, probably why a lot of us introverts will steer clear of the lives or feel that it's really awkward.
Yeah, because I don't like being put on the spot too, and I feel like I like to, kind of think about things and formulate an idea before I start talking about it. So sometimes when you're doing a live video, if somebody asks you a question live and you're like, you really would like to take 2 minutes to think about that before you respond, you
Yeah.
can't really do that.
Yeah.
So, but if you're recording something and then you're like something occurs to you, you can push pause or stop the video and think about that for a minute and then come back to it with kind of that reflection and intention in what you're about to say.
Yeah, cool. So I'd be curious to know, since we've been working together. Well, first of all, I'll say this. One of the really interesting things when we are working together is we were looking at your Instagram reels
Yeah.
and looking at seeing if we could increase the numbers and get more visibility with that. And we started playing around with a couple of different elements, and there was this one instance where one of the videos was that first video really took off. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so that one, yeah, I batched a few of them all at the same time. And so I was posting them out each one day at a time. And one of them it just took off and got, I think, 4,000 or maybe even more, like thousands of views when the other ones were several hundred. That one had so many more views. And so it was really exciting to see not only my Instagram account growing, but like people engaging and interacting there on the platform, and just all these new people that I was able to reach. And so it was fun to kind of go back and figure out with you what was so good about that one. What did people like about it? And then try to reverse engineer it and recreate it for some new ones, which was exciting to try new things and see what would work. So it's
Yeah,
kind of like playing. It's fun.
it was exciting. It was fun. It was being a little bit more scientific and strategic about the reels and
Yeah.
looking at the different elements. So, using your voice, obviously, talking to camera, the specific words that were on the screen, and also the visuals. And I think it was sort of the combination of the three. There were a couple of those that were like 10K, 13K, or
Yeah,
something
I
like
think
that. Like they
they
really
were.
took off.
They did. Yeah.
And
And yeah.
oh no, I was just gonna say it started a way of also, I think, finding your voice and a style that felt good for you and was a way to communicate with your audience.
Yeah, it was. It was fun, and the reels are tricky at the same time. They're challenging because they are so short, and we kind of started to notice that the shorter the better. Even 60 seconds is kind of long for a reel, so the shorter the better. And yeah, just what words are showing up there on your cover, on your thumbnail, and if you can hold up something or somehow just drawing people in and yeah, starting that conversation. So it was really exciting when a few of those, and I hadn't really played with them that much before. And then to have some of them do really well. It was fun and
Yeah.
continues to be fun working on them and trying to see and, and then you kind of get bored of that kind of same formula and test out some other things and see what else works. And so there's always this evolution of what are we going to try next and what else could we do that's kind of like this, but different now. So
Yeah, exactly, which is great. And you're getting a lot of shares as well, which I think is the key with that is that you now start reaching a much bigger community, which is what we want. So that was really exciting to see. But from there, we worked on a plan of creating idea or a vision of how to amplify your voice more, get out there into other platforms. You had already had a YouTube channel, but it was still in the sort of like growth phase, like it, right? You already
no,
had,
the YouTube channel was brand new.
oh, that
So
was
the
brand new as
podcast,
well.
yeah, they were both
Oh,
brand new together. The YouTube channel and podcast
oh my
started this
goodness. Okay.
time.
So this was incredible because you took on the task, and I must say, I'm very impressed of starting a YouTube channel and a podcast at the same time. Now, here's the thing. One might think we're crazy, but the thing is that the way I look at a podcast, the way I look at a YouTube is like those are two primary platforms. You choose one and then you can easily repurpose to the other.
Mhm.
So we looked at for you, what's going to be the primary, and then how can we use that primary platform to then pull that content into the other. And in that sense, they can work very naturally and easily together. And for you, you chose which to be your primary.
Well, I feel like the YouTube channel might be the primary, and I'm starting to now that I've been in it for a couple months, I'm kind of starting to think about ways I could use them differently. But yeah, it is so easy when you can just do one thing and then just repurpose it directly onto the other one and reach so many more people. Some people like to listen, some people like to watch. So, but since what I do is so visual, sometimes when I'm kind of outlining the content and I know it's just going to go on a podcast as well, I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. So I'm starting to think of new ways I could do both of them separately. But yeah, it is fun to see how the difference between people who go to the YouTube channel and people who go to the podcast. And there's just preferences that people like to consume content in different ways and engage with you in different ways. And so it's always nice to be able to do something once and have it work for you twice as hard.
And so, what's the response been since you started the YouTube channel and the podcast? Have you heard back from anybody?
Yeah, so I've received some really nice emails that people are excited, and there are so many new homeschoolers this year, last year, the past few years. Just a lot of people who kind of got thrown into homeschooling, but then realize they actually like it and they want to stay here. So even though schools are open again, the homeschooling community has really grown, and so there are a lot of new homeschoolers who are like, "I'm so glad I found you because we're just starting out and I don't know what to do for art and for art history. So this is amazing." And that was one of the other things that you really helped me with was figuring out how to speak to the adults because I'm used to speaking to kids. That's who I communicate with in my program. I'm directly communicating with the kids. So then we decided that the YouTube channel and the podcast would be for adults to kind of make them feel comfortable in bringing this kind of curriculum into their homeschool. So that was a challenge as well, because a lot of the time I am used to talking to kids around ages 7, 8, 9, and maybe that's not the most influential way to speak when you want somebody to hear what you're saying and you want to be seen as a thought leader. There are different things that you need to do with your voice. So
Yeah, exactly. And that brings up a really good point is that we don't always consider how our voice is perceived or received on the other end. The person that's listening, the person that's watching, how are they receiving that information? Is it attracting them? Are they confused? Is it annoying? Is it boring? Is it confusing?
yeah.
So, yeah, it was great that we were able to get clear on that. Now, curious to know, have you gotten any sort of results on your YouTube channel or your podcast? Anything exciting start to come in? You noticing any trends? What's going on?
Yeah, I've noticed that. Well, always historically, a lot of traffic comes to my website from Pinterest and from Google searches. So those are the two things. And I've never had obviously any traffic from YouTube, but now I'm starting to see, and it's a lot. It's even more than platforms like Facebook, where I've been established for a while. It's people are finding me and coming to my website more from YouTube. So, and it's just started the past couple of weeks. So it's, still in its brand new stage. And I haven't even intentionally tried to direct a lot of traffic because I know that YouTube, they like people to stay on the YouTube platform. So I've been, not very assertive or aggressive in trying to direct people away and over to my website, but they're still finding their way over there, which is really exciting. So the
Oh, that's
more
good.
traffic I can get from YouTube, the better. And from the podcast as well. I think that it's so exciting to just hop into the platform and see how many people are listening and downloading, and to realize that it's really reaching a lot of people, which is exciting.
I want to ask you, I'm curious to think where would you be if we didn't meet, if we didn't work together? Where would you be right now?
Well, I for sure I wouldn't have started the YouTube channel or the podcast because those were like not even on my radar at all, not even things, projects that I ever had, considered or contemplated
What have
or
I done to you?
thought about. But I would probably still be, have the blog, and I'm not even sure I would be that much in the Instagram Reels territory yet. I might be doing it a
Really?
different way, like maybe showing books or showing project ideas or snippets of things, but probably not myself speaking, which is,
Really?
we all know the thing that, you need to get out there and have people feel like they know you and like you and trust you. So before they feel nurtured enough to come into your world and become part of your programs or, join your communities. So yeah, I just was never, I don't know. It never occurred to me to do things that way, just because I think it is because I'm an introvert and I just
Mhm.
like, oh, this is so pretty. I mean, my graphic design background, I'm like, I can make this so pretty with this graphic and this typography. And so me going on camera was the last thing on my mind. So you really
Wow.
inspired me to open doors that I never would have before. So
That's amazing. That's huge. That's really exciting. Well, I'm
yeah.
glad that I could facilitate that for you and give you that little nudge to get out there. I think you're doing great. And has any have you noticed, like, I mean, we've sort of touched on this before, but have you noticed then a difference? Well, have you noticed a difference with how you commute to those that are already in your community? Like, do they notice a difference in the way you communicate with them? And also, has then has it had any sort of ripple effect then in, like, outside of business, but like the rest of your life, if you're feeling more confident using your voice and getting it out there?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, I used to kind of keep my ideas to myself more, not
Yeah.
because I was like timid to share them, or I'm always one of those people who goes into a room and I'm an observer. I think that's why I like art history so much, because it's all about observation. But I just like to watch what's going on, and I have my own thoughts, but I'm not necessarily compelled to share them with anyone. So that was something that I'm like, you know what, this could be a fun conversation. And I do start to talk more when I would have probably just kept my ideas to myself and continued observing. So yes, it has definitely had a ripple effect beyond the Instagram Reels and the podcast and YouTube into day-to-day life in general.
Do you have any advice for anyone who may be in a similar situation as you when we prior to when we first started working together, that is on the fence or considering working on their voice, or they know that that's something that they need to work on but they've been hiding or putting it off? What advice would you say to them, to somebody who's considering possibly putting themselves out there?
Yeah, I would just say don't discount what you have to share. Even if you think that people have already heard it or there's already other people doing what you're doing, everybody has their own unique take on the thing that you're here to share with people. And people need to hear it from you, because it's sometimes there's a certain way someone says something, or there's just a certain quality about a person that will magnetize other people to you. So your voice needs to be heard and your message needs to be shared. And the more confidence you have to get out there and share it in whatever platform, if it's Instagram or podcast or YouTube or on stages or doing Facebook Lives, if that's something that is, for some people, I think that you're right. That is fun. Whatever that looks like, I think that it's really important for all of us to feel empowered and confident to step up and share what we have to share with people, because there are people out there who need to hear it.
Oh, it's so good. Thank you so much, Lotus. It's been so nice catching up with you. And I'm so excited to keep watching you and listening to you on the podcast, the YouTube channel, the Instagram reels everywhere. We have to get you on the TikToks though.
I know that's next. I've got one video on TikTok, but that is on hold for now until all the rest of this kind of becomes a little bit more. I have more systems in place, but yes, that TikTok is another huge opportunity that I'm excited to explore.
Well, we will get you there. Anyway, you're doing a fantastic job, and I really appreciate you sharing your story and how far you've come on the podcast. Where can people find you if they've got a homeschooler at home and they want to learn more about what you do? How can they find you?
Yes, thank you. My website is arthistorykids.com, and my podcast and YouTube channel are called The Homeschool Art Revolution.
Amazing. And we'll put that in the show notes as well. Thanks so much, Lotus. I really
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
having
time.
me, and thank you so much for all of your knowledge and feedback and everything. It's been really amazing and just like blown me away beyond my wildest dreams how comfortable I could feel speaking with, in all these different ways that I never did before. So really, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks so much.